Hello everyone, and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. The drought and the recent late freeze have really taken a toll on Oklahoma's wheat crop. So much so that some producers, especially in the western part of the state, are forgoing harvest this year and bringing back their cattle. For advice, SUNUP's Dave Deacon talked with our extension beef cattle specialist, Dave Lallman.
So Dave, what should producers be thinking about if they're going to go from a grain crop to putting their cattle back out?
Well, there's two options, and that is either hay or grazing. And you know, the hay question is, when can you get it put up in an immature state? Because everybody knows that the sooner you can get it put up, the better the quality will be, and that's going to be difficult with the weather. Although, you know, perhaps that's one of the positives, is that we might have pretty good haying conditions if it continues, the sun shines and it's dry. So that could be a good thing. But getting it put up early will improve the quality and reduce feed costs next year. The second thing is that if you're going to graze it, there's really two things that might increase the risk, and that is possibility of wheat pasture bloat and the possibility of grass tetany. I would guess that most people's wheat is far enough along with a flag leaf and maybe even developing a head. At that point, wheat pasture bloat's probably not a big concern. But the easy thing to do to prevent that is to make sure that the cattle are full when they're turned out the first time. Grass tetany is an issue of supplying adequate calcium and magnesium, and that can be done through the mineral supplement. So just make sure to provide a high calcium, high magnesium. Now, it doesn't totally remove the risk of grass tetany, but it certainly reduces it. The other thing that they can do is graze the wheat with cattle that are less susceptible to grass tetany, and that's growing calves, yearling cattle, heifers, or dry cows, or cows that have calves older than about 4 months of age. It's the cow that's about to calve or the cow that has just calved that is the most susceptible.
And one thing producers need to be thinking about before they do it, they need to make sure that all their T's are crossed with their insurance companies.
Absolutely, yeah. Check with your insurance agent and make sure that they've been able to come out and evaluate the wheat before you do anything.
And producers will be purchasing hay from other people later throughout the season. Let's talk about the importance of a hay test.
Well, hay test is particularly important with wheat forage, especially if you don't get to see it. If it's a long ways from where you're located and you have to buy it sight unseen, you know, have them snap a picture and text it to you on your phone, or, you know, that would be helpful. But even better would be a forage test, and that's information that's very valuable because, you know, wheat goes from really nice quality green wheat hay all the way to wheat straw, and it's just a matter of maturity. So yeah, lower fiber value and higher crude protein value means it's going to be higher quality forage, which should result in lower feed costs for the person purchasing the hay. So.
Okay, thank you much, Dave Lallman, our beef extension specialist here at Oklahoma State University.
I'm Al Sutherland with your Mesonet weather report. Wind has been a concern this week. We started off with a tornado tracking through Quapaw, causing extensive damage and, sadly, one fatality and a number of injuries. Winds across western Oklahoma picked up soil particles, turning skies a dusty red-brown and dramatically reducing visibility. A map of maximum wind gusts from Monday, April 28th had peak gusts in the 20s in southeast Oklahoma to the upper 40s in northwestern Oklahoma. The highest gust was 60 miles per hour at Camargo. Maximum wind gusts were higher on Tuesday, April 29th, while the highest gust was the same, a 60-mile-per-hour gust. More Mesonet sites had maximum wind gusts near 50 miles per hour or higher. In the southeast, many sites were 30 miles per hour or higher. Extended drought and high winds are causing soils to move. In a few severe cases, fields have had close to a foot of topsoil blown away. A graph of average wind speed at 6.5 feet above ground level for Boise City shows that average wind speeds close to the ground went above 35 miles per hour on Sunday, April 27th. They were above 30 miles per hour for over 12 hours on Tuesday, April 29th, and a shorter time again on Wednesday, April 30th. Last weekend's storms brought good rains to only a few areas in Oklahoma. The green bands indicated an inch of rain or more. For much of the state, it was little to no rain. As we end April, the percent of plant available water in the top 16 inches of soil is very low in the major wheat production areas. The brown-colored areas have percentages typically below 20%. The dark green areas have good moisture, being at or slightly above field capacity 100%. There can be some dramatic local differences. Spencer reported 97% of plant available water in the soil, while the nearby Oklahoma City East Mesonet site came in at only 7%. Looking deeper at percent of plant available water from the surface down to 32 inches at the end of April, the same pattern persisted. From central Oklahoma west, the soils often came in below 50%. The water percents in the brown areas were typically in the teens. On April 30th, the Climate Prediction Center released new outlooks for May. There's an increased chance of above-average temperatures for May. That trend is strongest for southwest Oklahoma. The precipitation outlook shows equal chances of being above, near normal, or below normal for May for most of Oklahoma, so no trend. There's a slight increase in chances of being above average in the far northeast corner. Hopefully you were spared from frost damage on Thursday and Friday mornings. Thanks for joining us for another edition of the Mesonet Weather Report.
Joining us now is Kim Anderson, our Extension Crop Marketing Specialist. And Kim, it's that time of year, time for the wheat tour, and is there any good news that you can tell us this year?
Well, there's some good news, but it's limited, and that good news would be that some producers are going to harvest some wheat, and that wheat is a very resilient plant, and it is going to produce a head and a kernel or two. You look at the Oklahoma crop tour, it came in at 66.5 to 70.5 million bushels. You've got to go back to 1957 to get below that, when it was 43 million bushels. You look at Kansas, it also came in relatively low. They were talking 32 to 34 bushels per acre in less acres. And of course, Texas is in worse shape than Oklahoma, which is in worse shape than Kansas.
And as a result, are we seeing an impact on prices?
Well, I think we've seen that impact already. You go back to late February, the wheat prices at that KC July wheat contract price was right at $6. It went over $8 this week, and I think that increase in price is because of the drought. It's because of the freeze that's created these thin, this low wheat yields and abandoned acres and the low production expectations. Also, we've got the Ukraine situation coming in there that's given us a little boost in price, and it's kind of probably the joker in the deck, and you've got the tight stock. So you look at this, the market has adjusted for it, and what we got to remember is the market has already factored in this low production estimate.
And kind of what everybody wants to know, how high prices will actually go.
Well, nobody knows how high prices can go. If you just look at losing Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas wheat, we're probably near the top. If you start losing more wheat like that and you start losing foreign crops, as we hit out into August and September, we could have $9, $10 wheat. But let's look at the percentage of the time over the last 5 years that the price has been certain levels above that. You look at $7 wheat, 40% of the time the cash prices have been above 7. $7.50 wheat, 25% of the time the price has been above that. $8 wheat, only 16% of the time. $8.50 wheat, only 9% of the time has it been above 8. And of course the high wheat price is just above $9, and above 9 is 0.02% of the time. So with wheat prices around $7.60 for a forward contract, the odds are around 23% that it's going to be higher than that.
And you're also keeping your eye on a big report for next week.
Yeah, the WASDE report's coming out. I don't have any pre-release estimates on that, but I can't see any way that they would increase hard red winter wheat ending stocks very much. I think the stocks are going to remain tight, and that should support our price through the June-July time period.
And finally, with all this in mind, when should producers be selling that wheat?
We got a lot of volatility. We lose some wheat in some of the foreign, Australia, Argentina, or Europe, or some of the other, the former Soviet Union countries. We could see $9, $10 wheat this year, and producers wouldn't want to miss out on that. I think staggered in, maybe sell half of it if our prices hold, sell half of it at harvest, and hold the other half to stagger in throughout the year.
Okay, Kim Anderson, we'll see you again next week. Thank you.
The breeding season for yearling replacement heifers should be well underway because most Oklahoma producers will try to breed those replacement heifers 3 weeks to a month ahead of the rest of the cow herd to give them more time to rebreed for their second calf crop. I think this is a good time, therefore, to plan a visit with your veterinarian to schedule to have those replacement heifers pregnancy checked about 60 days after the conclusion of this breeding season. Why do I want to do it so soon? 3 important reasons. Number 1, research from Montana back in the 60s and 70s showed us that replacement heifers that went through a breeding season but did not get pregnant, if they were kept for the rest of their lifetimes, they only averaged a 55% calf crop. Very, very likely that a replacement heifer that didn't get bred in the first breeding season, there's something wrong with her. We want to get her culled and out of our herd. Number 2, we want to do it as soon as possible while that heifer is still young and will bring the best price per pound. Because they're still young enough to go to a feedlot, be fed out to be choice beef, have an A maturity carcass, therefore they will bring a better price per pound as that open replacement heifer than if we wait until next spring and find out that she's a 2-year-old that did not have a calf and we cull her at that time. The third reason is obvious, and that is that a heifer that we're not going to keep anyway is one that's going to consume some precious grass, precious hay supplies, and certainly very expensive supplements throughout the rest of this summer, the fall, and the winter. We don't want to have that added expense for a heifer or cow that we're going to cull anyway. So I think it's important that we, soon as possible, schedule with our veterinarian to have these replacement heifers pregnancy checked as soon as possible after the breeding season, and that way we'll take care of those 3 important factors that helps our bottom line. Hey, we look forward to visiting with you again next week on SUNUP's Cow-Calf Corner.
Joining us once again, Darrell Peel, our livestock marketing specialist. Darrell, let's talk a little bit about expansion today, but let's start with the producers here in Oklahoma. We've got great prices going on. How hard is that making it for folks to go ahead and hold on to some cattle and expand their herd?
You know, it's a question I get at a lot of meetings is, these heifers are just so high right now, they're so valuable to sell, I can't afford to keep them. And I think that's a classic, situation that the industry faces every time we get into this expansion situation. And it really comes down to the immediate value versus the producer's expectations for the future. And it's not until they believe that prices are going to be good enough, long enough to make it worth that investment before they'll make that retention decision. I think the overall evidence suggests that is happening and that producers are convinced now that it is the right time to make that investment.
All right, so let's talk about that sort of overall market view. How are we doing as far as expanding this herd?
Well, the indications at this point are that we are following through with the plans. You know, January 1, we had about nearly a 2% increase in beef heifers in inventory. That's a key to expansion. If you look at the data since then, of course, we haven't had any more inventory numbers, but, you know, heifers on feed as of April 1st was still down. Heifer slaughter for the year is down about 8.5% or thereabouts. And cow slaughter, you know, this time last year we had persistent drought conditions. We'd had a long cold winter and a lack of hay, and cow slaughter, beef cow slaughter, actually went above year-over-year levels from March through June of last year. So far this year, that has not happened. Beef cow slaughter is down significantly, even more sharply in recent weeks. So the combination of decreased cow slaughter and the apparent heifer retention suggests that we are following through at this point with our herd expansion plans.
All right, now of course that's not going to be homogeneous. We're not going to have the same type of growth everywhere. Where are we really seeing the most expansion?
Well, if you look at, you know, the drought conditions generally in the Central Plains and in the Midwest, we've got moderate drought conditions, but those seem to be improving. They're getting some moisture up there. You know, we've had lots of talk lately about delays in getting corn and soybean planted and things like that, but most of those delays are related to wet conditions. So from the standpoint of the underlying drought situation, most of that's a good sign. Obviously, we're not seeing any improvement yet in the Southwest, in the Southern Plains, you know, Western Oklahoma, West Texas, New Mexico, that area is actually getting worse at this point. So we're increasingly developing, you know, between the two regions, kind of the haves and have-nots, with improving conditions in one area and conditions actually getting moderately worse in the other area. Oklahoma is kind of the dividing line, or at least the dividing line runs through Oklahoma from east to west between better conditions and no improvement at all at this point in time.
All right, good information as always. Darrell Peel, Livestock Marketing Specialist here at Oklahoma State University.
Now here's SUNUP intern Melanie Jackson with a profile on two very motivated young business owners.
Karen and Susan Weckler are not normal teenagers. They are youth entrepreneurs.
Well, my sister and I make and sell sewing kits that teach kids simple hand and machine sewing skills.
We have what we call our kits for beginners. It's lacing or sewing with a plastic needle. Then we have our hand sewing kits. They teach different skills like sewing on a button, doing a back stitch or a blanket stitch. And then we also have our machine sewing kits, which they teach how to work with a sewing machine, like going around curves or pivoting.
The Weckler girls are part of a growing trend, youth entrepreneurship.
First of all, kids just have ideas all the time. And if we tap into those ideas and encourage those ideas, they can take it wherever they want to. And it just so happens that the Weckler girls had a mom that was, you know, very good at business management, and so she led them in that direction. And you know, the rest is history, I guess you would say, as far as that goes.
Starting your own business may be daunting, but the trick is to use your interest as motivation.
They were looking for a way to earn a few extra dollars, and they had some ideas, and we just kind of started brainstorming.
We wanted kids to be able to learn how to sew and also have a product that they could use in the end.
Find something you're passionate about doing. I mean, don't just go through the motion, say, oh, I want to start a business, and you know, try to come up with something. No, there's something you're going to be passionate about.
Once you identify that passion, there are a variety of ways to receive assistance starting the business.
There are a lot of great resources out there. Our county extension office especially has great resources in economic development.
You can start with the Small Business Development Center. They will help you write business plans. They will review your business plan, give you hints. There's an organization called Rural Enterprises, or REI. There are services everywhere if you will just look for them.
Now, besides making money, entrepreneurship provides an excellent opportunity for personal growth.
I've learned a lot about relating to people through working with customers. Also learned just about business management, financial record keeping.
Through having a business, it's helped me learn more about responsibility, the responsibilities that come with that. It's also taught me about the financial side of having a business, that I have to work to get my money.
Now the Weckler girls are sharing the lessons they've learned.
But I also think that our business is a way that we can encourage other young entrepreneurs to pursue their business ideas, and just use it as an example that young people can start their own businesses and pursue their dreams like that.
For SUNUP, I'm Melanie Jackson.
Joining us now is Dave Scheidler, our Community Development Specialist for Extension. And Dave, we just saw an example of entrepreneurship. Let's kind of start with explaining the differences between entrepreneurs and small business in general and kind of how they're related.
Sure. So entrepreneurs typically are considered to be a subset of small business owners, at least initially. So they're going to start out small with maybe 1 or 2 employees. But entrepreneurs, what distinguishes them is that they're the innovators. They're the ones that are creating new products. They're the ones that are providing new services, new manufacturing processes, maybe taking an existing product and applying it to a new application. And so whereas kind of the broader set of small business owners are going to be people who are providing goods and services that we use every day. So they're valuable, but they're not necessarily creating new things.
So how important then are entrepreneurs and these new ideas and these innovations to our Oklahoma economy in general?
Sure. So small business owners and how we define that, or how I'm defining that, is businesses with less than 10 employees represent about a quarter of our employees in Oklahoma, which is huge. And then you look at entrepreneurs, they're going to be obviously a smaller piece of that, but they're the ones that are going to be creating much more value in the economy. So these new ideas that they're creating are going to make maybe our personal lives easier or manufacturing processes easier, which allow those manufacturers then to invest more capital in these new processes, create better products, and that's what creates value in the economy. And as we create value, that's what grows our economy and allows us to employ more people, have more capital investment and things of that nature.
And so that evolution hopefully is always taking place so we can always continue to grow?
Absolutely. So in economics, we describe this process as creative destruction. So you can think back and think about VHS players a while ago, and that evolution from VHS to DVD and then even now to Blu-ray is what we would call creative destruction. So somebody came up with this idea of being able to put more information on a plastic disc that was more durable than a VHS tape, and so that technology replaced the old technology and has made our lives easier because they're more durable and not susceptible to temperature and all those kind of things.
So in terms of supporting entrepreneurs and this creative destruction that you mentioned and
Sure.
this new innovation, what can communities do and what can individuals do, since it is important to the Oklahoma economy?
Right. So in the previous segment, you heard about some of the services and organizations that provide services to entrepreneurs. So REI and the Small Business Development Centers, and even our career techs, most of them have an incubator, which are designed to help small businesses and entrepreneurs get on their feet by providing lower rent space and some support services. But on the community side, really the communities, the best thing that they can do is they can get to know these people. So a lot of times our small business owners and our entrepreneurs, they don't have a big sign out in front. A lot of times they're just working out of their house, and so they're kind of flying under the radar. And yet they talk to people. People know that they're creating this new product or what have you, and communities can pay attention to that and get to know them, and then try to identify what are the things that they need to really expand their business. Maybe it's a spec building that the community can build. Maybe it's infrastructure like better broadband access. Maybe it's just helping them better market themselves and think about ways that they can promote themselves, maybe through the city website or through advertising in the newspapers, helping them to make those kind of connections with reporters and things.
Lots of potential there for the next big idea or service that'll make life easier.
Absolutely.
Okay, great information. Dave Scheidler, our Extension Community Development Specialist. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Weather is one of the main key elements for conducting a prescribed burn. Monitoring weather prior to the burn, trying to determine which day meets the prescription that you have prescribed for that particular burn that you're going to do is very important. But also one of the other important factors is on-site weather. And one of the best things that you can use is a digital weather instrument like this one that I have here to read and to get on-site weather information right prior to when you burn. It's also important to take while you're burning so you can get what the conditions are, if they're changing, is it getting hotter and drier? So if that's the case, we may need to slow down, watch for potential spot fire areas, problems that may develop, or is the conditions changing? Is the humidity going up, the temperature going down, wind speeds are going down, so some type of adverse condition might occur. So it just helps us monitor the weather. One thing you need to remember when choosing a weather instrument is to choose one that will give you the information that you need. So make sure, for a minimum, I recommend that you have one that reads temperature, relative humidity, and wind speeds. Those 3 items are essential for each one. To operate them, they're very simple typically to operate. They typically have an on-off switch, which a button that you turn off and on, and then you can scroll through their menu and get wind speeds, temperatures, relative humidities. When you do take your on-site weather, you want to take the weather at sites just like where you're going to be burning at. So, if you're in a forested situation, you don't want to stand out in the broad open middle of nowhere that looks totally different than what you're burning in. Same reason is if you're burning in an open grassland area, you don't want to go get behind a bunch of trees or stand in the shade. You want to take your weather in the same kind of conditions that you're going to be burning in. Also, once you light the fire and things are burning, you want to take your weather, make sure you step away from the fire, because again, the heat can affect the temperature, which in turn can affect the relative humidity and other readings that are on there.
That'll do it for us this week. One final reminder, the special documentary, 100 Years of Oklahoma Extension, premieres on OETA this coming Thursday, May 8th at 7 o'clock in the evening. I'm Lyndall Stout. Have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you next time at SUNUP.